Philadelphia, a city in constant motion with thousands of moving parts moving in every possible direction. Pedestrians, drivers, taxis, limousines, public transportation users, and cyclists all trying to get to their destinations as quickly as possible. In the past few years, and especially since smartphones have carved a permanent place into our already fast-paced lives, more and more street users have become distracted, leading to an increase in driver-pedestrian crashes. In Philadelphia, a driver hits a pedestrian once every 5 hours. These crashes are as unacceptable as any other crime, and they are also preventable. Did you know that in 2013, there were approximately 100 traffic fatalities in Philadelphia, which was almost half the number of homicides in the city? We can all agree that 100 deaths is exactly 100 too many. It is also unacceptable in a leading city like ours. In order to make our roads safer, we need the police force's enforcement on behalf of this important issue. To help keep our pedestrians and drivers safe, the Philadelphia Police Department has established a simple three-part strategy. Interact and create more positive police-citizen interactions. Educate drivers and pedestrians about the correct way to get around our city. Enforce the rules of the road. First, as police officers, you must interact. Make your presence known to pedestrian and drivers while creating positive interactions with citizens, especially in the city's high crash areas.
Ma'am.
Whether you're on foot duty, in your police car, or patrolling on bike, see and be seen. By having a strong presence in high volume areas, and especially during high crash hours of the day, collisions can be prevented. After interacting, you should educate drivers and pedestrians about the correct way to get around our city. Even though every driver and pedestrian already knows what and what not to do, it always helps to be reminded about the correct way to get around the city. From the basics, like look both ways and cross at crosswalks, to less obvious tips like put your phone down or don't walk while stuffing your face. Reintroducing the rules of the road will help make our streets safer. By discussing preventative safety measures with drivers and pedestrians in a low-stress environment, you will yield more positive results. Try respectfully engaging citizens who are displaying the unsafe pedestrian driver behaviors. Remind them that road safety saves lives and prevents injuries, and that safety is a decision we are all responsible for making. Lastly, you have to enforce the rules of the road. That goes for drivers and pedestrians. If you are more active, informative, and diligent as an officer, people using Philadelphia's streets will be safer. Citations and written warnings are useful for enforcing safe driving and pedestrian behaviors. Ultimately, such enforcement will help lower the number of pedestrian driver crashes. Here are some common violations to look for. For drivers, speeding 10+ miles per hour over the limit, especially in school zones. Distracted driving, running stop signs and red lights. Blocking the box. Driving while intoxicated. Improper passing. Failure to yield. Aggressive, inattentive, or indifferent driving. For pedestrians, jaywalking in mid-block crossing, distracted walking, crossing against the light, crossing against a don't walk signal. You can also enforce road safety through pedestrian safety enforcement operations. Here is some basic information about implementing them. Plan. Analyze local crash data and gather community feedback in order to identify existing pedestrian safety issues. Then ensure that the location is safe and suitable for law enforcement officers and all others involved. Staffing. Staffing requirements vary depending on the site of the operation. Operations work best with decoy officers, ideally 1 or 2 officers dressed in typical bright-colored plainclothes. The decoy officers act as pedestrians and ensure that pedestrian crossing attempts are done consistently and in a way that doesn't jeopardize the enforceability of citations. By having decoy officers, it allows you to maintain a consistent rate of driver-pedestrian interactions, justifying the presence of additional officers. Keep in mind, the goal of this operation is to make drivers aware that they aren't just committing violations, but they are endangering the lives of others. Operations also require uniformed officers who observe violations. Typically, 1 or 2 uniformed officers are present. Additionally, 1 or 2 uniformed officers issue citations and warnings. However, the role of uniformed officers observing violations and issuing citations can be combined. These operations may be modified based on locations and the number of officers available. In this instance, an officer on a bike witnesses a driver blow through a stop sign and radios to a fellow officer in her vehicle down the street. The officer in the patrol vehicle then pulls over the driver while the first officer makes his way to the scene and issues the citation.
But just please use more caution in your driving, okay?
Organize a pre-brief. Officers participating in the operation should attend a pre-brief session led by officers who received pedestrian safety enforcement operations training. Enforcement operations don't require many supplies. It's suggested that handheld radios, clipboards, data collection sheets, and road safety handouts be used. For more information on how to conduct a proper pedestrian safety enforcement operation, visit the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's website. And remember, the safety of pedestrians, drivers, and officers is the primary goal of all enforcement. Beyond this 3-part strategy, there are other behaviors that must be addressed. Speed, for example, is a big risk factor. The faster a vehicle is traveling, the more likely a pedestrian is to be seriously injured or killed if hit. As you can see, the chances of a pedestrian dying or suffering a severe injury after getting struck by a vehicle rise significantly as vehicular speeds increase. Speed enforcement is especially important as it ensures greater pedestrian safety. While we can't issue citations for speed, we should enforce for careless and reckless driving, and cite these statistics too. You never know. The driver may have never considered the consequences of speeding. The bottom line is that aggressive and distracted driver and pedestrian behavior can have devastating and inexcusable consequences. Crashes continue to occur and fatalities continue to add up. As I mentioned before, a driver hits a pedestrian once every 5 hours in Philadelphia. As a police force, you must continue to interact, educate, and enforce for safer streets. By interacting with citizens, educating pedestrians and drivers on the rules of the road, and enforcing proper violations, you can help make Philadelphia's streets safer. Thank you for your attention to this important issue and for helping to make our streets safe for everyone. Your hard work, professionalism, and service are appreciated.